It was supposed to be just another rainy Tuesday night in Lexington, Kentucky. Inside the flickering neon glow of the lakeside grill, the atmosphere was its usual mix of coffee steam, fry grease, and quiet conversation. It wasn't glamorous. Just a humble highway diner with vinyl booths that stuck to your legs in the summer and a jukebox that hadn't worked right since 1998. But it was a second home for Alina Carter, a 28-year-old waitress who'd learned to survive life one tip at a time. 2 jobs. Rent overdue. A sick mother back home in Louisville. Alina didn't have the luxury of slowing down. Not for a moment. She wore her exhaustion like an invisible coat, heavy, constant, but somehow, she still managed to smile for every customer who walked through that squeaky front door. As the storm outside picked up, rattling the diner's thin glass windows, Alina wiped down a table for the 4th time. She wasn't expecting anything different tonight. Just more refills, lukewarm small talk, and the usual quiet sadness that clings to graveyard shifts. But then she saw him. Through the fogged-up window, barely visible beneath the diner's dim outdoor light, sat a man, huddled under the awning, soaked to the bone, clutching a torn blanket like it was the last thing he owned. He wasn't panhandling. Wasn't shouting. He just sat there, staring at the puddles forming beneath his feet. Silent. Still. Forgotten. Alina's stomach twisted. She tried to shake the feeling, tried to remind herself it wasn't her problem. Greg, the diner's owner, had made his policy crystal clear: no freebies. No waste. This ain't a shelter. His words. Not hers. But the image of that man, trembling in the cold, wouldn't leave her. She slipped into the kitchen, heart pounding. There was a stack of unsold burgers prepped for disposal. Fries already fried. Cookies meant for kids who didn't show up tonight. She didn't think. She just moved. A to-go box in hand. A decision in her chest. She stepped out the back door, the rain hitting her like needles. The man looked up, startled. "I thought you might be hungry," she said, offering the box with a soft smile. He stared at it, then at her, his eyes wide with disbelief. His hands trembled as he took it. "Thank you," he whispered. 2 words. But the way he said them cracked something open in her. Before she could say more, the back door slammed open behind her. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" It was Greg. His face was red, rain dripping off the brim of his ball cap, and in that moment, he looked like a man more offended by kindness than by cruelty. Alina turned slowly. "It was just some leftovers," she said carefully. He looked hungry. Greg stormed forward. "You think I'm running a charity here? You want to feed strays, do it on your own dime. You don't get to make decisions like this." "He's a person," Alina replied, voice shaking now, not with fear, but rage. "And it was going in the trash. I don't pay you to think, Alina. Get back inside." She held her tongue. There was nothing she could say that would matter to a man like Greg. She glanced at the homeless man, gave him a small nod, and turned to walk back in. But Greg wasn't done. Inside, in front of a half-dozen regulars and 3 truckers sipping bad coffee, he made a scene. "Everybody listen up," he shouted. "This is what happens when people forget who's in charge." He pointed at her like she was a criminal. "You're fired. Effective immediately." The diner fell dead silent. Forks froze mid-air. Conversations died. Someone dropped a spoon. Alina's mouth opened, but no words came. She didn't beg. Didn't plead. She just stood there as her dignity peeled off her one layer at a time. She turned, walked into the back, grabbed her jacket and her purse, and stepped into the rain. And the man she'd helped. Gone. The to-go box was neatly placed on the bench, empty now. The only sign he'd been there at all. Tears mixed with raindrops on her cheeks as she stood at the edge of the lot, soaked, heartbroken, and lost. But fate wasn't finished with Alina Carter. Not yet. A pair of headlights cut through the storm, slow and deliberate. A black luxury sedan pulled into the lot, sleek and silent. Too nice for this place. The door opened, and out stepped a man, tall, confident, maybe mid-30s, dressed like Wall Street royalty with an umbrella that probably cost more than Alina's rent. He walked toward her, calm and steady. "You're the waitress from inside, right?" he asked. She blinked, suspicious. "I was. Not anymore." He smiled slightly. "I saw what you did." Alina bristled. "If you're here to tell me I shouldn't have, don't bother. I don't regret it." "No," he said, voice like silk. "I'm here because it impressed me." She stared at him. "What?" "I'm Jason Adler," he said, extending a hand. "I own several restaurants across the Midwest. Upscale. High-end. And I'm always looking for people with integrity." Her brow furrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means people who do the right thing even when no one's watching. Even when it costs them everything." Alina shook her head, still dazed. "So what, you're offering me a job? A managerial position. Benefits. Better hours. Better pay. And most importantly, respect." She laughed, bitter and low. "You don't even know me." Jason nodded. "Maybe not everything. But I know enough. I know character when I see it. And I know courage when it walks into the rain to feed a stranger." Alina's voice cracked. "This sounds. I mean, why would anyone?" "Because people like you are rare," he said. "And because we need more of you in this world." She stood frozen, the rain pooling around her shoes. "Take your time," he said. "But the offer's real. Here's my card. Call me tomorrow." Then he turned, walked back to his car, and disappeared into the storm. Alina stood there for a long time, soaked to the skin, a business card clenched in her hand like a lifeline. The next morning, her phone rang before she could call. It was him, the homeless man. His voice was clear now. Strong. "My name is Bernard Lowe. I'm not just some guy on the street. I'm a veteran. A father. And until a few months ago, I was a restaurant manager, before life knocked me flat." He paused. "And I saw what you did. And I told someone who could help." Alina sank onto her couch, stunned. You knew Jason." "He's my brother-in-law," Bernard said, chuckling. "I wanted him to see the kind of person the world keeps overlooking." That night, Alina accepted the job. And within 6 months, she was running one of the busiest restaurants in Lexington. With full benefits. A staff who respected her. And a homeless outreach program she personally helped build, with Bernard by her side, employed, smiling, and helping others rebuild too. All because of one moment. One choice. One act of kindness. In a world that often punishes the good and rewards the ruthless, Alina Carter reminded us all that integrity still matters, and that sometimes, doing the right thing does pay off. Maybe not right away. But eventually, it echoes. Louder than any shout. And longer than any storm. Alina's story didn't go viral because she posted it. She didn't seek recognition, praise, or revenge. It went viral because someone watching felt something they hadn't felt in a long time: hope. A trucker who witnessed the scene wrote about it online. A blurry photo of Alina standing in the rain beside the man she helped traveled across platforms. Thousands of comments poured in, people moved not just by what she did, but by who she was. People asked, what would I have done? Some admitted they might have looked away. But most said they'd try to be more like Alina. And that's the point. We spend so much time chasing success, status, and survival, we forget that the smallest acts of humanity can create the biggest ripple effects. A burger. A to-go box. A hand extended instead of withheld. And a heart brave enough to do it anyway. Alina taught us that kindness isn't weakness. It's strength. The kind that doesn't need applause to be powerful. And she reminded us of something else, too. That sometimes, the world only changes because one person decided to be better when no one else would. So if you're watching this and wondering if your choices matter, they do. And maybe today, you'll be someone's Alina. Oh you too, narrated, calm and reflective tone. If this story moved you, share it. Not for clicks. Not for trends. But because someone out there, maybe someone you'll never meet, needs to know that decency still exists. That kindness can still win. And if you've ever felt overlooked, discarded, or punished for doing the right thing, know this. You're not alone. And your time is coming. Because just like Alina Carter found out, the rain never lasts forever. The soft hum of jazz played through Alina's new restaurant as sunlight poured through wide windows. She stood by the glass, watching as families laughed over lunch, servers moved with confidence, and the room buzzed with a kind of warmth money couldn't buy. This wasn't just a business, it was a heartbeat. Behind her, Mr. Donovan approached quietly, his voice low and proud. "You look like someone who's finally standing where they belong," he said. Alina smiled, a little breathless, still grounding herself in this new reality. "It still doesn't feel real," she admitted. "A few weeks ago, I was wiping tables in the rain, thinking I'd never be enough." Mr. Donovan smiled gently. "And yet here you are. Not because of luck, but because of who you are when no one's watching." Meanwhile, at the old diner where it all began, the mood had shifted. What was once bustling now felt hollow. The manager, the same one who fired Alina, glanced nervously as a longtime customer slapped a receipt on the counter. "This place used to have heart. Now it just has policies." With that, the customer left, and others followed. Online reviews began to pile up, asking the same question, "Where's the girl with the braid?" The absence of compassion had become the loudest sound in the room. Back at Alina's restaurant, one rainy evening, a homeless man stepped inside, drenched and unsure. Before anyone could speak, Alina moved toward him with a towel in hand and a kind smile. "You're welcome here," she said. "Always." She led him to a seat near the window, offered him warm soup, and checked on him with the same grace she once gave in silence. The room paused. Staff members exchanged glances, not of shock, but reverence. In that quiet moment, the restaurant became more than a place to eat, it became a place to be seen, to be human. Late that night, in her modest office, Alina rubbed her tired eyes and shut her laptop. Running a restaurant was harder than she ever imagined, but she had never felt more fulfilled. Mr. Donovan walked in holding a framed newspaper clipping, the story that had sparked it all. "Fired for compassion, now a leader of change," the headline read. "I thought you should have this," he said. "It's not just about what happened to you, it's about what you did with it." Alina looked at the frame, moved. "I didn't do it alone," she said quietly. Mr. Donovan nodded. "Maybe. But you gave everyone else a reason to believe again." Days later, social media exploded with a movement. A cafe in Oregon hung a sign, "No one leaves hungry." A teen in Chicago filmed himself handing out leftover bagels to people in need. A restaurant chain in Atlanta tweeted, "Inspired by Alina Carter. Starting today, we donate all leftovers to local shelters." The hashtag #BeLikeAlina began to trend. Not out of sympathy, but deep, genuine respect. Weeks later, Alina stood on a modest stage in a high school auditorium, addressing students during Leadership Week. Her voice shook slightly, but her message was steady. "I got fired for feeding someone who had nothing. And for a moment, I believed maybe I was wrong. But kindness isn't weakness. Compassion isn't unprofessional. Sometimes doing the right thing won't be popular, but do it anyway. Applause thundered across the auditorium. In the back row, unnoticed but deeply moved, sat the very man Alina had helped months ago, tears quietly rolling down his face. A year later, the restaurant had grown. A community board now filled one of the walls, plastered with thank you notes, shelter flyers, drawings from kids, and job listings. Alina walked the floor, still wearing her apron, still smiling like she did that first day, but now, people called her boss. She paused beside a young, nervous waitress struggling with a tray. "You're doing great," she whispered with warmth. "Just lead with your heart." That night, as rain fell softly against the windows, Alina stepped outside. The weather was almost identical to the night she was fired, cold, wet, uncertain. But this time, there was no fear. No shame. Only purpose. She closed her eyes and let the rain fall across her face, smiling gently. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness becomes the spark that changes everything. Months passed, and Alina's story continued to ripple outward like waves across still water. Journalists reached out, not for scandal, but for hope. Podcasts invited her to speak. A well-known food critic visited quietly one afternoon, tasted her grandmother's cornbread recipe, and wrote a review that simply read, "Come for the food, stay for the soul." But through it all, Alina remained grounded. She still greeted every guest personally. Still helped clean tables after closing. Still kept a pair of dry socks in the back for anyone who might need them. One chilly November evening, as the holidays approached, the staff prepared for their first annual dinner with dignity, a night where no one paid, but everyone was welcome. Families, seniors, and people experiencing homelessness filed in as volunteers served warm meals with music and laughter. Mr. Donovan, now more mentor than boss, stood quietly at the back, tears in his eyes as he watched a room full of people break bread together, not out of charity, but community. After the dinner, Alina lingered behind to stack chairs, humming softly. That's when a young woman approached her, maybe 19, clutching a notebook. "Miss Carter," she asked shyly. "My name's Tasha. I used to work at a place that didn't treat people right. But then I saw your video online, and I left. I'm in culinary school now. I just wanted to say, thank you. For making it okay to care." Alina's breath caught in her chest. She reached out and hugged the girl, heart full. "You didn't need my permission," she whispered. "You just needed to know you weren't alone." In that moment, Alina realized something. Her story wasn't just about standing up after being knocked down. It was about lighting a path for others to walk through the dark. Her fall had become a ladder. Her kindness, a revolution. And as the city buzzed with holiday lights and noise, tucked in the corner of a quiet street stood a little restaurant that never turned anyone away. No flashing signs. No billboards. Just a small wooden plaque on the door that read, "Lead with Heart." Years later, people still talked about that rainy afternoon. About the girl who gave a homeless man a meal and lost her job, only to gain a purpose that changed lives. Alina's Diner, as it came to be known, became a training ground not just for chefs, but for second chances. She partnered with shelters to hire those who'd been forgotten. Created scholarships in her grandmother's name. And every Sunday, without fail, she reserved the front booth, the one near the window, for anyone who just needed a little warmth, a little kindness, or a fresh start. And on one quiet spring morning, as the sun poured through the windows and the scent of fresh bread filled the air, an older man with worn shoes and soft eyes stepped inside. Alina recognized him instantly. It was the same man she'd fed years ago, now sober, working, smiling. He placed a single flower on the counter and simply said, "You saved my life." She smiled back, tears welling in her eyes. "No," she replied softly. "You reminded me why mine matters." Sometimes, a single act of kindness doesn't just echo, it rebuilds the world.